Good evening, Somers, and welcome to the Somers Town Board regular meeting of Thursday, October 14th, 2021. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Patty, roll call.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Here.
Councilman Richard D. Lynch.
Present.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Here.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr. Supervisor Rich Morrissey.
Present. Thank you, Patty. Okay, our first item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing regarding the Community Development Block Grant application for the 2021 program year. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Patty, publishing and posting?
That was published in Somers Record and posted on the Town Clerk's Bulletin Board on October 7th.
Thank you. Okay, this evening, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Steve Robbins, consulting town engineer. The public hearing tonight is part of the process for applying for grant funds from the New York State Office of Community Renewal. The town has developed with its grant consultant and in consultation with the Office of Community Renewal, a comprehensive facility upgrade project for the Van Tassel House. It includes rehabilitation of interior spaces to create more room for senior programming, upgrades to the HVAC system, some accessibility upgrades, and some related site work to assist with some of the moisture intrusion issues that they have at that building. It also includes a new passenger van and a new mini cargo van for the senior services, and a standby generator at the facility as well.
Okay. Wow, it sounds like a total makeover.
It's certainly an aging facility. It's a nice facility in town, and with these upgrades, it will certainly help the facility operate more efficiently, more energy efficiently, help maintain better air quality and better conditioning of the space, and better serve the town's seniors.
And those vans that you mentioned vans, right?
That's
Those
correct. Yes.
Qualify also under the grant guidelines.
Yes, that's correct. Yep. The Office of Community Renewal has these funds as part of CARES Act funding, and they are eagerly looking for communities to get that money spent.
We'll
Steve,
be eager
what-
to spend it.
Yeah, what's the timing of the application? I know having this public hearing is step one with regarding our application, but where do we go from here?
Sure. Once the public hearing is closed, the board would approve a resolution approving submittal for the grant. The next cycle for the review of applications is the first week in November. And if this is accepted for grant funding, they expect to be executing the contract with the town in the first week of December.
Wow.
And then
Great.
it's a quick spend from that point.
So obviously we would hear pretty quickly after our application goes in.
Correct. Yep. And my understanding from the town's grant consultant is these funds are first come, first served. So we've certainly moved quickly once we learned of the availability, developed a project, make sure it was vetted, and present it before the board.
Right. Well, I have to give credit where credit's due. Bob Kehoe, our finance director, was all over this.
Absolutely.
It started at, a very modest, like a generator and some modest work. And then he found out that in fact, you can include much more to that. And we're pretty much close to the maximum grant amount, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
And that's the 1.8 million.
Yep. So the total grant request is $1,825,000. And there is no local match.
And there is not.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's Christmas.
that's unusual.
It would be Christmas. Let's hope we
In December.
fare well with this.
Mm.
Okay, at this point, I'll open it up to the public for any questions, issues regarding the
Thanks, Steve.
proposed community development block grant. Okay, any further questions or comments by the board?
No.
Anybody on YouTube?
Ah,
And Tom doesn't have the phone. Get the phone.
okay, we are running a hybrid meeting tonight, correct?
Yep.
Andres, okay. So do you have anybody on YouTube? No?
Not at this time.
Zoom, actually. Okay. All right, so hearing no further comment, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. And I'd like to further move to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with the New York State Community Development Block Grant. And that's Community CDBG CARES Act program for senior center improvements, projects totaling $1,825,000 upon approval of the NYSHCR.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And thanks for your work on that, Steve and Bob.
Yes.
A number of town staff helped as well, so credit where that's due.
Well, typically when you're doing these grants, there's a lot of legwork that gets done. And we're all relying on the town and
Yeah,
personnel to do
certainly a
that.
team effort.
Yeah, because the devil's in the details.
You just
of these
don't make a
grants.
request, you have to support it and
Right.
you have to identify all the prerequisites. A lot of work.
Right. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is public comment. I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Now, open public comment is an opportunity for anyone in the public that wants to comment on any issue that they're concerned about in the town. And with that, I'll open it up to public comment. Anyone here or on Zoom or texting in? Yes, ma'am. For public comment. You just state your name and address.
Sure,
You pull that down.
There you go.
yeah. Barbara Tepper, 714 Heritage Hills. Two things. First, I'd like to express my support for the improvements at the Van Tassel House. I know that it is a beloved establishment for the longtime residents of this community, and it really could use some updates. Second, there are a lot of residents of Heritage who like to walk, and we walk between crossing over Route 202 by DeChico's. Is there any way that we could get a crosswalk there and a pedestrian signal at that intersection so we know when we can safely cross? So we go from DeChico's, they go over to Putnam County Bank, they go over to Bobo's, they go back to their car by DeChico's, or they go back and forth.
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So I've had an ongoing conversation with the DOT. The response I get back from them is, I said, well, how about at the traffic light? There is no control landing for pedestrians on either side.
No,
So you come from, there's a sidewalk on the DeChico side, but if you cross over there, there's nowhere to
right, there's no
land.
sidewalk. There's no sidewalk on,
Okay.
yeah, on the other side.
So the other place people are crossing is right in the Heritage Hills Shopping Center entrance opposite the Somers Town Center. And, I watch people play Frogger, there, every day. So we are in the process, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, did that TAP application go in yet? It has. Okay, so the town, via our grant writer, has submitted a sidewalk improvement grant where we're trying to get funding to run a sidewalk from Chico's Heritage Hills entrance to be connected right up here to the townhouse. So we
Yes.
are, in the past, we had a bigger sidewalk plan that got some criticism. So we downsized it and we think this is now a more critical ask. So we do have a grant application in. And as you know, this town runs on its grants and its volunteers.
Yes.
So we are very hopeful that we will get this sidewalk grant.
So if
I-
we get that in, we think that the DOT will capitulate with this idea and create a,
Yeah, well, it would be, we now have, funding and, they would be part of the process, obviously.
right. Just for clarity, we don't, this is a state road. So we have a
Yeah.
whole separate organization with their own, the way they conduct business.
Oh, believe me, I've been there.
Okay, so
When I lived in Staten Island, our middle school had one traffic signal hung from the middle of the intersection. There were 1,800 kids in that school. And at dismissal, you have 1,800 kids pouring out into the street. There were no pedestrian signals. Most of the times, the principal would go out there and direct traffic. And one day my daughter came home from school and she was hysterical, crying because one of her classmates got hit by a car at dismissal. So being the mother, I get really mad. And I go and I start investigating and what this is. And it turns out there was supposedly a bus rerouted like 30 years prior to that. There was never supposed to be a signal there. I don't understand why you would not have a signal at the corner of a school with 1,800 kids. And they said they're going to replace it with a 4-way stop sign. I said, that doesn't do anybody any good. Nobody stops in New York City for a 4-way stop sign. They all go. I said, forget it. So I contacted the local newspaper and there was a big front page spread. City doesn't see the light. So I am well aware of the
All right.
issues involved in getting pedestrian safety protocols.
Mhm. So when and if we get to a point where we have a public hearing on this, we'd love to have you come out and voice what you voiced here tonight. I don't think we'll have a big problem with DOT, but we did have them out here and we walked both sides of 202, which
Yeah.
side would be most appropriate for a sidewalk. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, there was already a taking along 202 out here, wasn't always that wide. So they
Right.
did encroach on people's property. And of course, I had a meeting with the property owners on the southern side of 202 and the northern side of 202 in this room. And it was the north against the south. Put the sidewalk on the north, take more land over there. So it's none of this is
No,
ever,
people walk on both sides of the street.
Right. So none of this is ever easy, but your concern is well-founded. It's our concern. One of our major chores here we're committed to public safety. So we do have a grant in. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We get that grant, we'll get a sidewalk put in.
And
Thank-
now we know why you left Staten Island, came to Somers.
Yeah.
Their loss, our gain.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on Zoom or the phone, texting? Nope. Okay,
You can tell here.
all right, seeing no one else for public comment, I'll make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, next on the agenda would be department reports. Patty?
I have reports from the town clerk, building inspector, zoning board of appeals, plumbing, bureau of fire prevention, parks and recreation, planning and engineering, tax receiver, and director of finance.
Thank you. The next item is the town of Somers COVID update. We're still struggling with this pandemic. As people will note who are in the audience tonight, if you come into our building, vaccinated or not, we want you to wear a mask. These are town board members. We've all been vaccinated. We have everyone's records here. We don't have all of your records. So this is a way to protect you. It's a way to protect us. Somers has really been doing a great job. I walk around town. Some businesses are very strict, and they have signs posted, and others are not. But that's the nature of this virus as it rolls out. Our rates here in Somers, we have an 82% vaccination rate. That's people who've had at least one dose, and these are eligible people. You're not counting the under, the 5-year-olds and under. We currently have 29 active cases as of the other day, and we only had one new case. So for a population of 24,000+, I think we're doing pretty well. Westchester County, they have 1,408 active COVID cases currently in the community, and 88 new as of yesterday. So make no mistake about it, the virus is still out there, and you need to take individual caution. You want to wear a mask, you wear a mask wherever you go. If I go into a store, whether they have a sign or not, and I'm uncomfortable, I always carry my mask with me. It's something that we're going to be doing, I think, for a long time to come. Okay, so I can't wait for the day where there are no town of Somers COVID updates. Next agenda item is number 2, which is our 2020 audit discussion with Jeffrey Schaefer, CPA, O'Connor Davies. Jeff, good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. My name is Jeff Shaver, partner with PKF O'Connor Davies. Happy to be here to present the results of the audit for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2020. I see everyone has the audited financial statements out in front of them. So I'll just be taking you through some of the highlights and opening it up to any questions you might have. I'd like to start on the first page after the table of contents. This is the independent auditor's report. And in the auditor's report, we mentioned management's responsibility, and that is essentially management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. The auditors, us as auditors, we're responsible to express an opinion on these financial statements. And we go on to say on the next page, in the opinion paragraph, essentially we've issued an unmodified opinion. That's also known as a clean opinion, and that's the most favorable opinion you can receive. And what that means is the numbers in the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. And the note disclosures are consistent, complete, and accurate. So certainly good news there. With that said, I'd like to jump into some of the numbers. I'll start with the general fund. If you're following along, page 60 and 61. This is the comparative schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, budget and actual. 2020 on page 60 and 2019 on page 61. The first column is the original budget as was adopted by the board. The second column, or the final budget, encompasses any transfers or amendments that were made during the year. The third column is the actual revenues and expenditures. And the fourth column is the variance between the final budget and the actual results. So you can see when the budget was initially crafted, it was anticipated 9,478,000 would be collected. Actual revenues for the year, 10,081,000. So you did better than your budget by approximately $603,000. Just a few line items to highlight. Other tax items, 248,000 positive variance. That's the interest and penalties on taxes. As people come in to pay their taxes late, they have to pay interest and penalties. Non-property tax items, the largest item in there is the sales tax distribution from the county of 594,000 positive variance. So certainly good news there. Departmental income, there was a negative variance of about $553,000. Remember, we're talking about the year the pandemic hit. When you adopted the budget, we didn't know the pandemic was going to hit. Most of the youth programs, the parks and recreation programs were really just either canceled or totally minimized. So you didn't recognize much revenue associated with those programs. And that accounts for that negative variance. All in all, when all the positives and negatives net out, we have a positive variance of 603,000. On the expenditure side of the budget, you can see it was anticipated $9.6 million would be spent. Actual expenditures for the year, $8.6 million. So you underspent your budget by about $775,000. You normally have a budget surplus on the expenditure side, as you don't want to overspend your budget. You're always trying to stay within your means. I'll just highlight the culture and recreation category. I mentioned that the programs weren't running, so you also save some expenditures. So you'll see the $255,000 in culture and recreation, mostly results of those programs not running throughout 2020. So between revenues and expenditures, the budgetary surplus, or the amounts that you beat your budget by for the fiscal year 2020, was about $1.4 million. However, when the budget was adopted, you anticipated utilizing some of your fund balance, a total of about $369,000. The difference between the two becomes your actual surplus. So had you spent every dollar in your budget and collected every dollar, your fund balance would have come down by that $369,000. Instead, you did better than your budget by the 1.4. Brings you to an actual surplus of $1,040,000. So the fund balance goes from 6.8 million up to 7.8 million. Very positive year, especially considering where we were, in 2020. Just to give you some numbers, the 7.8 million is roughly 79% of your operations, the very healthy fund balance. The town should be very proud of that. The 7.8 million is broken up into various categories. The largest category is what we refer to as assigned fund balance. It's essentially money that's earmarked, set aside for various purposes. 635,000 of the fund balance was used to balance the 2021 budget. It's not a concerning amount of fund balance to utilize the budget, considering the amount that you have, but it is greater than what you did in 2020. You set aside 3.1 million for capital costs and 1 million for tax certiorari claims. What that leaves after, backing out those earmarks is what we refer to as unassigned fund balance, or sometimes I like to say free and clear fund balance. So it's not designated or earmarked in any way. It's available for use at the discretion of the board. That number stands at 2.5 million, and that number is roughly 25% of your operations. Is very healthy number. So certainly all positive news here, especially considering, what the beginning of 2020 started out as. Oh, and just one thing I forgot to mention, the mortgage tax, which is within the state aid category, also came in greater than the budget. So you'll see that you're seeing the theme of the economically sensitive revenues, the sales tax and the mortgage tax, namely, both did better than the budget and both increased over the previous year. Both great things.
Yeah, it was almost like a phenomenon. People were in here paying their mortgage tax, early. I wish that happened every year, but
Well,
it's a very strange fiscal year, 2020.
We're seeing, I'm seeing it as I go through the various municipalities. Lots of strange things happen in 2020, things that we don't normally expect to see. We were seeing, for the most part, it's been mostly positive. Most municipalities were able to come out on the positive side of the pandemic. School districts
Yeah, school districts
have fared well.
They fared well as well.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
The counties have fared well mostly because of the federal dollars that have, come through, the stimulus money, CARES Act, and then the ARPA's coming. And the sales tax has been good. This is a sharing from the county, so the sales tax countywide has been fairly strong, bounced back well.
Do you see any areas of concern as you've been around various places?
The municipalities that I see that took the biggest impacts. I was actually at a village today in southern Westchester. They rely heavily on parking fees because they're like a commuter village, and it totally tanked. People weren't going into the city. Fortunately, Somers does not have that, that revenue stream, so you're not in that situation. Justice court fees. So some municipalities rely a lot on those justice court fees. Courts were closed in 2020 for part of the year, and then when they did come back, they came back kind of part-time or slowly. So those fees dropped off. So I, just speaking from, my experience, those are two areas where municipalities were hit quite heavily. Yeah. Luckily for Somers, the only revenue stream that was really hit was the parks and recreation. But you got the savings on the appropriation side as well. So not a terrible concern. Certainly early in 2020, nobody knew what was going to happen. So most municipalities tightened their belts because it was scary, and we didn't know how bad sales tax would be, how bad the revenue streams would drop. The state was threatening reductions of state aid. They actually did reduce some state aid at first, and ultimately made everybody whole. But so it was scary times, but hopefully the worst is behind us at this point.
Well, if you go back 2008 when stock market tanks, and some of us, were in these seats then, and you're seeing all the revenues drop. What are we going to do? And you start cutting staff and cutting it, because it just kept going and going and going. And of course, like everything in economics, one thing leads to another, leads to another. There's a ripple effect that sometimes you can't even foresee where it's going to go. And I think that those fears were, well, okay, we're going to go through that again. And through a variety of reasons we'll discuss here, we've come out okay, but we still don't know what the future has. It's always uncertain, right? Now there's supply shocks throughout the world. You can't get anything, and who knows what the impact of that'll be.
And that's the importance of the fund balance. That's why you have that fund balance set aside. If there is another shock, which there could be, you have the fund balance there, so you don't have to disrupt town operations because of an economic downturn, a brief economic downturn.
Right.
So that's why the fund balance is there. You have a healthy amount, and it's prudent to keep that nice amount of fund balance.
We're very happy about the fund balance for sure. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we get an improved credit rating.
Yeah.
I think, also I always, talk about this. I mean, the town collects the taxes for the entire town. So although the budget may be $15-16 million for us, the entire collection and process that we go through is maybe in the $120 million range. And it's our responsibility to make sure that if somebody doesn't pay, or we still have the obligation to the rest of the municipalities to make those payments. So this is part of the risk management that we have to deal with. And, again, I think this is important. And I don't think that this is too much. But you always go into those.
No, we have to pay
conversations.
all the school tax.
Right.
Even if someone doesn't pay, we have to make them whole. And
Right.
county tax, we have to make them whole. That's our legal obligation. So you're right.
Yeah.
Just a couple other things I wanted to highlight. Highway fund had a good year. Fund balance increased by 621,000.
What page is that?
Sorry, page 70. Page 70 is the same presentation just for the highway fund.
Got it.
Very weather dependent highway funds. Next year could be a bad year. You never know when that's going to hit. Luckily, 2020 was a good year. You have about $2 million in fund balance in the highway. So that's roughly 50% of your operations. It's also very, very healthy fund balance there. Page 86 is the library fund. Also had a positive year. Libraries, if they're funded by local tax dollars, the tax dollars come in 100%. Libraries had to, at least brief closures or limited hours. So we see savings in libraries because they're not open as much as they normally would be. So you have some expenditure savings, but the revenues are for the most part fully there. The fines are, the fines for late book collections are pretty minimal. So that doesn't hurt too much. So certainly a positive year, 200,000 increase and 772,000 fund balance in your library fund.
Sure.
The last thing I'll
What
point out,
percent is that of that operation budget?
Can I ask that?
That's 70%.
it's about 70%.
Yeah.
Yes, schools have what, a 4% discretionary rate?
Yes.
Fund balance cap, but none of our operations have any caps of such, right?
Just reasonable and necessary,
Okay.
there's no
Regulated.
firm.
Yeah, no regulated cap.
School districts are also allowed to keep many reserves that towns don't keep. So just keep that in mind too. The 4% doesn't show the whole picture. They have reserves that only school districts can have. So
But they have to be voted on. When they,
some of them do, some of them don't.
Okay.
Capital reserves do. Sorry, I don't mean to go in on school districts.
yeah, of course. I mean,
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Well, we're interested in those too.
I just wanted to highlight the debt. I know you recently issued a bond for paving, I believe it was. I saw that today. I saw the increase in the credit rating. So very, very positive. I think it reflects the information that I'm presenting here tonight. So the debt on page 42 in the note disclosures does not reflect that new debt because this is as of December 31st, 2020. You'll see it was $4.3 million. And the bottom of the page, you can see the payments to maturity or, how much the debt service on those bonds is going to take as a portion of your budget. So you'll see in 2021, it was 1.2. There was slated to be a drop off in 2022. So essentially your new bond, the payments will become due in 2022 to kind of ease some of that drop off. So you did a good job of smoothing out the payments, if you will, so you don't have a drop off in your debt service.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, I was going to say, I've
Good planning.
not sure
So
if
good
it's
planning.
close.
You haven't issued any, a tremendous amount of debt over the past 4 or 5 years. The last one was 2016. And that's almost, paid off now. Because you've been, taking some of your surplus and putting it towards capital, which is also prudent.
We've always had a mindset of like 10 years for paving and over a 10-year process, or years, right? The ladder of debt matures and then you just keep going. And now you have a system to keep, your paving funded. So I think, again, it's good practice.
So all good news. The only thing I just want to add, thanks to Bob and the whole department for a clean audit. We come in really very smooth. The books and records are in very good condition. Minimal journal entries. We have no what we call material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls. So it's really a nice process for us to come in. So thanks to Bob for that. And it's obviously always a pleasure to come and present nice numbers to a board. So certainly I don't have anything. I don't think I have anything negative to report.
When you look forward long term, so here we're going 1 year, and of course, on your house budget with the federal budget, you want long term. When you look long term, are there any red flags that come? I know if you're on a school district, and we said about here, your long term health insurance requirements, contractual requirements, could take up. You have to be careful. They don't take up an increasingly large percentage of your budget. Just like on the federal budget, the payments, the interest on the federal debt it's not the number of dollars, it's the percentage of the federal budget. That's the key thing to keep your eye on. So I guess I'm asking you that here. Do you see any of those red flags in their future where the percentages of whatever obligations we have going forward seem to be eating up more of our budget?
The health insurance has been rising, faster than inflation for years. I think we've all seen that. The concern is that it'll continue to run greater than inflation and start eating up more and more of your budget, especially when you have retirees that you're paying for, which many you do and many of the municipalities do. So you'll be paying more and more, and you're also not getting any current services. So it's really just part of your budget that is kind of gone from the start, so to speak. So it's certainly the health insurance rates, certainly something to keep an eye on. Always keep an eye on appropriation of fund balance. I mentioned before, it was about 350,000 in 2020. You increased it to 600,000 or so. It's not a well that you keep on going to.
Sure.
You have to watch it, and every year, you can't just increase it, and eventually you're going to run dry. So you always have to keep that in the back of your mind. You have to make up that money. Also, with the federal stimulus dollars, the ARPA money, if you use that to supplement your current operations, it's going to dry up in a couple of years.
You don't want to create a cliff.
So just keep that in the back of your mind. Most municipalities seem to be trying to do the right thing. One-time costs like capital costs would be the ideal. But if you're using it to do your operations, you're going to create that hole for yourself 2 or 3 years down the road. So
Right.
Those are the three things I think I would, for now, keep in my forefront.
I always want to point to the, we have obligations for retired folks. So when we think about our expenses, we have operational expenses for the folks that are here. But we have people that are retired we have obligations that go forward. So as people retire out, those obligations stay there and maybe increase. And as that's happening, we still have to replace people to keep service levels. I think there are some numbers in here that show, the
Yes,
number of
there are.
employees.
There's the actuary. There's an actuary hired by the town, and the numbers get reflected in the financial statements.
But there's a headcount number in here somewhere.
There's a head count number. And it also a liability that the actuaries put on the value of this health insurance for your retirees now,
Yes.
and the people who are working now that will get it later. The head counts, at least as of the last valuation, was 149.
Okay.
So you had 72 actives, 77 inactives.
Yeah.
So your health insurance bill is almost half and half.
Yeah.
You're paying for retirees. And if you're not growing, it's probably going to stay that way. As people retire out, you're going to need to replace them. So you'll always be at that roughly 50-50 mark. The liability as they determine it is $28.5 million. So that's lots of assumptions go into that number. How fast the healthcare is going to go up is a big one. The discount rate that they use, how long people are going to live, mortality rates,
Sure.
all these various things that go into that number, but that's kind of where it stands.
It's significant though.
Absolutely.
All right,
And
great.
if your retirees have to pay more towards insurance when they're in retirement, the liability goes down, the less the town has to pay.
Of course.
Or the taxpayer.
Well, Jeff, it's always good to see you, and especially with you giving us good news. We don't know what it's like getting the bad news from you, so let's not even go there.
That way.
But appreciate you taking the time out and, the kind word you had for our finance department. So a very nice, concise report as usual.
Well presented.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Sure.
How many of these do you do a year, Jeff?
What's
How many towns, villages, school districts do you do a year? Because your company's huge. You have a lot of clients.
We're an expanding practice. We have an office in Long Island now. So I think in our Westchester, like out of Harrison, I want to say a little over 100.
And how many do you personally?
me?
do? Yeah,
Oh, I don't know, 30 or so.
that's a lot.
Some small, some, I would say some are some kind of in the middle, I would say, but some bigger. And we handle schools, towns, villages. I
It
handle
gives you a
fire
broad
districts.
perspective, at least of our geographic area.
Yeah, certainly. We have a big presence in Westchester.
Yeah.
And Putnam, this is kind of our home base, if you will. And we audit a lot of municipalities in this area, for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Good.
Okay, item 3 on our agenda, the double utility pole legislation discussion.
Ah, yes.
So this is a long and windy road. But I'm happy to report tomorrow, we have a meeting with the NYSEG folks who are in charge of pole relocation and removal program. So taking what our town attorney has told us regarding easements that we gave up, I think our tack with NYSEG is going to be, how can we help you get Altice and Verizon to remove their poles in a timely manner? Is that maybe we get into an IMA with NYSEG? But we'll see where that goes. And I will certainly get back to Roland with any ideas we can come up with, because I'll tell you, I've seen I thought I saw, the day I was on the phone with NYSEG talking about their program, I see utility guys across the street. They're right by a pole with a big X on it. I'm like, oh, that thing's going to get moved. No.
But it got an X.
Yeah, well, it had an X. That's why I thought it was going to move. But so, I think it's, but I do want to clarify something. At last week's meeting, I referenced that garbage truck that ran into wires. And I accredited that to Verizon wires. That was not necessarily the case. Could have been cable wires. We have a very good relationship with Verizon field people who we tell them about an issue regarding down wires or cable not functioning, and they're on it in a heartbeat. But the pole issue is, like I said, it's larger than the Verizon field people and Altice field people. This really has to do with NYSEG's pressure that they put on those two companies to just relocate their wires. So I will carry the discussion on to next month's agenda and have an update for the board on the result of my meeting.
But Roland, it's your fairly firm opinion that in terms of legislating a change on that, it's beyond the purview of a town.
Now, but I would have to have title reports done and some of these old easement agreements pulled in order to render a legal conclusion.
And nobody in
And I
Albany sort of
haven't done
brought
it.
this up and said,
Apparently
oh,
not.
here's the law and here's the situation. So
Apparently not, but if you think about it, your previous boards granted these unrestricted, presumably unrestricted easements, where every utility could have its own poles. It's only a matter of their cooperation that has put the wires on the same poles. So how do you now say that the fact that there's double poles in certain places, that's something that merits legislation in a
because
fine?
it defies common sense and common good, but that doesn't go too
Well,
far in common
we will.
courts.
Right.
So, and I think, Roland, you mentioned that at least in the Newcastle case, the Public Service Commission was silent. They didn't take an opinion.
Yeah, they were silent. Con Edison was prepared to litigate.
Yeah.
But the issue that I'm raising was never raised by anyone.
Mhm. Okay, well, before we turn you loose on researching the easements,
Yeah.
because, that is a big job.
Yeah, let's see if persuasion can go.
Let's see
somewhere.
if we can work something out with NICEAG. Okay, next agenda item is an update on our business historic water district projects.
Hello, everyone. Steve Robbins, Consulting Town Engineer. As an update on this, again, this is a project that the town is pursuing to address the water quality issues here at the townhouse. And through that project to act as a facilitator for a more regional solution, especially here in the Business Historic Preservation District, where other businesses and homeowners face similar water quality issues. The town is exploring the possibility of a connection to the Heritage Hills Suez water system. And we are currently working with Suez and the Westchester County Health Department to develop the preliminary engineering for that solution. There's a lot of details to be worked out, the limits of the proposed project, cost estimating, field investigations, all need to be conducted as part of that preliminary design. But we are moving forward and coordinating with each of those agencies to confirm their continued agreement that this is in the best interest of the town and the public for water quality purposes, and defining both the financial plan and steps for this, as well as the public process step for this.
Would we have to make an argument that also, since the monies originally came from the DEP, don't we have to make that argument that it's good for New York City water, not just ourselves?
So there's a number of different funding streams for this. This would not necessarily be that DEP funding. This is drinking water. But the town is looking
Okay. Right. Okay. Gotcha.
at other funding streams such as
Right.
ARPA funds and, obviously
Yeah.
district fees.
Right, so to Jeff's point, we're not using ARPA funds to run our town. We're going to use on a capital project to possibly get a water system through our historic district.
Sure.
We've been in regular contact with the town attorney and finance department, including earlier today, talking about water and wastewater issues and making sure that we have the legal frameworks and again, public process and outreach steps in place as well.
Okay, the next agenda item while you're there is the Business Historic Sewer District / North Salem Partnership update. I know you've been having meetings since last week.
Yep. At the last town board work session, the board directed us to engage in conversations with North Salem and their engineer to explore mutual needs and partnerships between the two municipalities and try to collaborate and find the best regional solution for sanitary sewage. Town of North Salem has issues in their Croton Falls area. Similarly, here in the Business Historic Preservation District, we have small lots. We have a mixture of old septic systems, some wet uses, some dry uses within the area, and a need for, again, a regional approach and solution, and what role can the town play in facilitating that. So we've had regular coordination with North Salem and defining our combined next steps. What's the town's role, town of Somers' role? What's the town of North Castle's role? Where do we overlap and where are we distinct? North Salem, thank you, sorry. Where do we overlap and where are we distinct in our needs and timelines and schedule? And what does collaboration open up in terms of funding possibilities, but what does it also make more difficult in terms of funding possibilities? So we expect as part of future updates to lay out opportunities and an action plan. We are working with you, Supervisor, and with Warren Lucas to coordinate with the County Planning Department as well as the Northern Westchester Watershed Committee on their acceptance of these projects as well and willingness to fund.
Okay.
This would be hopefully part of that DEP settlement funds.
Right, my fault.
Okay, and speaking of these two projects, we were in the process, and Steve's been working on this, a survey that we want to send out to the target neighborhoods. That would be the Business Historic District, So the survey would ask questions regarding, are you interested in connecting to a sanitary sewer? You interested in connected to a, water supply? Are you the homeowner? And things like, have you had problems before? And so we're trying to think of the best way to get this out. We're going to do snail mail to all the property owners and just say, go to the town website. You'll find this survey, please fill it out. We'll send out a code red notification, go to the website, fill out the survey. I'd like to see this survey get out there by the end of the month. So they have really the month of November to get that information back to us. But I think it's going to be very telling, certainly for what I see is the water process. We started that program a little sooner. We can see how many people would be interested in connecting to water, because that will delineate how far we get down into the business historic district. Okay, great. Well, Steve, I know these are a lot of between the grants, these projects, we've got your head spinning, but you're doing a great job for us on these.
We appreciate it.
Indeed.
Steve, on that,
Yes.
that survey, we heard that from who did we hear that from? Who was talking to us a while ago, that the survey would come out of their design. Who was that?
Well, that was the telecommunications.
Yes, it was the lady. Right.
This is different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on that one, we were looking for a percentage. I think she was talking about the percentage they were looking to get back to make it statistically reliable. Is there anything on this that we're aiming for so that people out there can say, look, if you think you don't matter, we need to have a wide range so we get a clear picture of what people may or may not want.
Yeah, I guess I would start by saying that, these projects aren't being formulated in a vacuum. There's been a lot of interest by the business community and residents in the area coming to the town, meeting with the town planner, meeting with the supervisor, us engineering technician, to talk about the issues that they face on their individual property. And so, we understand that there is some need out there, and the idea is to reach out and try to balance both. And these are some of the issues that I know the supervisor's office is working through: anonymity of response versus actually knowing where someone lives or their place of business is to be able to define a project around that. So this is a much smaller pool where individual responses are much more important than an aggregate whole.
Almost knock on doors though, right?
First things first.
Yeah.
And
We say 10%, 20%, 25. My brother used to do this for magazines. So we used to do all this polling. See, so a good result used to be if he had 5%, 10% was crazy good for him. Now that was a wider survey for things across part of the United States, regions, or even the whole country.
well, I think
Any
we'll
idea
take,
what would be a statistically reliable percentage?
I think we'll take a lot from lack of responses as well. I think if there's a groundswell of support for projects like this in the community, we hope that folks will respond accordingly, yay or nay. A negative response, we're using this as the first step or the next step, I should say, in the planning process to say, hey, look, we really have a group of business and residences over in this area that are very interested. And over here, we got mostly no replies, and those that replied said no. So let's make sure that we capture this and see what other further outreach we can do in this other area to understand. I don't think we want to be making decisions here based on statistical responses. I think we want to know where the community itself is at on an individual basis. And it's a much smaller pool of responses that we're looking for. So
Yeah, right. It's just this area.
Steve, North Salem just did a survey as part of their new master plan that they're formulating for Croton Falls. They at least did it on sewer. They might have also done it on water. I'm not sure, but you might want to ask George if
Sure.
you can have a copy of it. Some of the questions may be germane and you may wish to use them.
Nope, and the supervisor's office has, we've been coordinating on several drafts and we've used local and regional and national examples, yes.
Yeah, and matter of fact, the current draft, if you haven't yet, send it out to board members to take a look at. But we wanted to keep it relatively short, maybe 6 or 7, pertinent questions. But by all means, let's take a look at what North Salem put out there. And Roland, do they have any results back yet, or is it?
I think they do, because they've had one informational meeting, and I think they are having another one next week. And of course, they don't have any cost, and that's always the key factor that everybody wants to know
Yes.
before they really commit. Is what is this going to cost me?
You're in favor of everything until it costs money.
Yeah, right. So that's, of course, not available yet.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, moving along, personnel. We have current vacancies on our affordable housing board, our assessment board, partners in prevention. We have upcoming vacancies in planning and zoning. And, this town is really run by its volunteers. Every board we have here, people come out, they donate their time. If you want to get involved in your community, I just mentioned a number of boards here that are looking for members. Please do come out and volunteer. Item 3 under personnel, authorize the probational promotion of Mr. Gregory Maroney to a water maintenance worker grade 2, full-time in the water and sewer department for 40 hours a week. And in accordance with CSA contract appendix B, will move to grade 4A, step 6 at an annual salary of $61,258 per memo dated October 7th from Adam Smith, water superintendent, effective October 25th. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, our consensus agenda, 1 through 8. Any questions, concerns? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept the consensus agenda, items 1 through 8.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And for those who are wondering, it is American Archives.
There we go.
It is.
And I was wondering that, and now I know.
Well, now you just stole the thunder of the town clerk.
Oh, excuse me.
Well,
Excuse me.
you'll have to deal with that after hours.
Patty Archives Calba.
Keep going. It's not.
So our
Sorry.
next regularly scheduled meeting will be a work session on November 4th. But please note on the 19th, which is next week, and the 21st, we'll be conducting department budget hearings right here in the townhouse meeting room. That's open to the public. So, Ms. Calva, do we have any announcements this evening?
We have a few announcements. So the town-wide communication poll for wireless infrastructure is still ongoing. Responses are due by October 25th. It was already mentioned here a couple of times this evening. The link is on the town website, and please, it's very important to get your feedback. It's really, kind of gets a feel of where there is good wireless connection and poor wireless connection. Want to add anything on that?
Just a matter of process. We extended the survey till Monday, October 25th. We have about a 5% response rate, maybe about 450 to 500, I'm going to say households. However, we want more. And we want more participation. So we're out there. There's another code red that the supervisor's office, sent out. Let me just say to the public, I mean, it's an easy survey. You're going to get to weigh in about your communication experience. I mean, we're all getting infuriated when we get dropped, right? Or, we're trying to we're in a dead spot. So this gives you an idea to an opportunity to talk about that. It's also going to talk about aesthetics. I mean, you're going to have an opportunity to weigh in on aesthetics. I mean, we have large poles, we have base station proposals, which is to be on top of, let's say, towers or so, like water towers, co-locations, and also small facilities, because as we go from 3, 4, and 5G, it's going to go from larger to smaller and more frequency with smaller. So you get a chance to weigh in on that. And then also placement, it talks about private placement. Do you put it on private property? Maybe there are some public options. And, there may even be revenue opportunities for us. And then you'll be able to comment on that. And we're also asking for your name and address, name and email, which I think is important because we're trying to, link the responses to the surveys to the gap analysis that was done by Cityscape. So just to back up, Cityscape is the company, the consulting firm that is doing this for us. We're doing this in conjunction with North Salem, it's Somers, it's Yorktown, it's Mount Kisco, it's Lewisboro. And it's a northern regional assessment of, cellular service. So it's very, very important because what's going to happen from this is that we're putting together a master plan and we're trying to get ahead of the technology. So again, very, very important. And, this process with Cityscape, once we have this, it will go to maybe 2 to 3 other steps, which is going to include a regulatory review, some proposals about draft ordinances, and like I said, a master plan. So please participate. We always hear that we don't know, right? But you got to
Participate.
And if I can add to that,
Sure.
Councilman Sirico, other than being very, very important, the enthusiasm that I'm feeling from people who ask questions about this survey is wonderful, and it means people are excited and anxious to participate in this. And thank you, Councilman Clinchie, for letting us know that 5% is a great ratio.
Well, that's it,
In terms of
publishing. I don't
response.
know about that. In
So
publishing,
we're going to shatter that goal too.
So just
Call my brother.
one final comment on this, the survey.
Know
And
where
it's,
to go to get it.
it's not just for residents. If you work in the town of Somers,
Good point.
you're obviously affected by cell service and telecommunications connections. So, feel free to get on there because I did it as a resident. I got on today and I did it as town supervisor. And I did pick out some polls that I liked, some I didn't. But this is all good information.
So Steve, you can fill it out. Bob, you can fill it out. Barbara, you can fill it out.
Yeah.
You go, well,
Yeah,
you
go
go
on
to
the website.
You go to the town website and it's right there. So, well, that's an interesting response.
Mhm.
How do I get it?
Mhm.
You go to the website. The website is what? The www.what? somersny.com. And it's right there. You click on it, takes you to the survey. It's been in the Somers record. It has. It's also been in the code reds as well. Do you have code red? Did you sign up for messaging from the supervisor's office? Another thing you could do on the website.
You should
Great.
visit our website.
It's free, and in emergencies, it is good information.
Because on the bottom of the homepage, you can see where you can register for Code Red. So you provide your email address, your phone number. You want text, you want emails, you want phone calls. And if there's a tornado warning,
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
you'll get that notification.
Yes.
So we've been using it for general information also. It's not always an emergency. Like for this survey, we're sending out another one saying to reminding people, go to the website, look for the survey, fill it out for, telecommunications and, future uses.
Andre, could you
Put
maybe
on-
bring up the website on the screen? Is it possible?
We had
And it's-
a chyron on the cable. If people watch that, I don't know how many people do, but if they watch the meetings and stuff, maybe a chyron on the bottom, that would help us. Telling people to go take that survey.
If you can, fine. If not,
I think Paul can
Okay.
do it.
So Andreas, so maybe bring that back to Paul, maybe on the government channel. He can just run that line on the bottom. Don't forget to fill out your survey on. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Any fun facts?
Oh, I
Oh.
have more announcements.
Oh, more than that.
Oh,
I didn't realize.
I mean,
that
other
was gonna
than
turn
Archives
into-
Month?
I knew I was going to, should have put that one on the bottom.
Uh,
My next announcement is the Somers Litter Task Force Keep Somers Beautiful is having a town-wide litter cleanup weekend, which is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., supplies will be provided at the Elephant Hotel in the parking lot. If you would like to get a litter picker and a vest,
Keep going.
there's a deposit of $20. Town of Somers bulk refuge drop-off is beginning this Saturday, October 16th, and will run through November 13th. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at City Carting at 241 Route 100 across from the Somers Highway Department. Again, if you go to our town website, there's an announcement with the cost per vehicle. The Somers Lions Club Trail of Terror is back. We had to miss it last year, and that will be on Saturday, October 23rd from 7:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. at Upper Reach Trail. $10 advance tickets. Tickets are $12 at the event. A ticket price per person per trail. This is not recommended for small children.
because it's scary.
October is National Archives Month.
I heard.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
was just a
Richard
rumor.
threw me under the bus. And so it's just, so we recognize and understanding the importance of preserving our important records.
It
And
is true.
your predecessor and you have put pressure on the supervisor to come up with a solution for our archiving problem. We are busting at the seams. So,
Okay, so my fun facts for the day, it's really a slow day in history. In 1890, President Eisenhower was born. In 1912, President Roosevelt was shot in Milwaukee. And in 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. was announced the Nobel Peace Prize winner. That's all I got.
It's enough.
But
enough.
it is the 20th anniversary, as you well know, Patty Calvin, of the Jeter flip.
Oh, it is. Cut to the
So
face.
we may have lost the playoff, but the play lives forever.
Yeah, I was told I really should play off some baseball fun facts. Oh, in Bronxville, there's this, oh God, what year was it? 1860? No. There was the first PGA tournament was played in Bronxville.
oh, nice. Well, getting a little more
I
current,
can spell where, but I'm not gonna say where.
getting a little more current, the
Like
Somers Tuskers football team has been tearing it up this season.
Here, here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
Hey,
You got a game
we
coming up
can't
this
change
weekend.
that till next
Tomorrow
week.
night.
Till next month.
Yeah.
Well, they still have some purple people to beat.
Yes.
okay, is there any
Or some
other
wolves.
issues, concerns, comments any of the board members have? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
See you
So
in
moved.
November.
Good night, Somers.
Happy Halloween.
So, happy
I see that
Halloween.
Mr.
Safe
Robbins did get
Halloween.
the